Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Copy with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Marco, who is the managing director and owner of Bamboo PR with us. Hey, Marco, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me today.
Lovely. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this with us.
No, my pleasure.
Great. Marco, we are curious. Let's get to know the human behind the mic. Were you always drawn to the world of PR and how were you growing up as a child? Let's get to know more about you and then we take it from there.
Yeah, depends how long you have. For me, PR was not the career I wanted to do originally. I wanted to be a geography teacher when I was a child,
That is
which,
interesting.
yeah, I think it was because when you're a child, you only really know school. So I thought the things that adults do are teachers. So when I want to be an adult, I want to be a teacher. But when I went to university, I realized that there was perhaps different kind of opportunities available. And I did English literature at university. So I fell in love with writing and reading and kind of the critical analysis of things. And it was towards the end of that kind of process that I was really into video games. I still am. And
Okay.
I thought, you know what, I love this space. I love technology. What can I do that involves writing for a career? And that kind of led me on my graduation to start applying for jobs. And I applied for some in journalism, some in media, some in PR, and some in marketing. And I must admit at the time, I wasn't very sure really what PR was. I dealt on the other side because I had a fan website in video games that I was using just to practice my skills and build a portfolio. But this small agency called Bamboo PR invited me in for an interview. And I graduated in 2009. That was right in the middle of the global financial crisis. There wasn't any jobs going around for
I was in the
graduate.
college then, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I got a job interview. I'm going to go for this. Like, I just need to be employed. But I did the interview and I fell in love with this tiny agency at the time. It was three people in London. And I loved the kind of energy of its owner, a lady called Nicola. And they seemed to like me back and said, hey, do you want to come on board as a junior account executive, kind of helping with PR and the media? And back then we were just purely PR and comms. We hadn't expanded into content marketing or digital or social like we have now. But I just thought this seems like a great opportunity. And then they never left. I've been here 15 years in October. I got my way up as we grew a little bit as a company and kind of learned a lot from our clients and the people I was working with and Nicola. And a few years ago, unfortunately, she was diagnosed with cancer and she passed away, which is
So
a
sorry.
tough situation to go through. But it meant that I had the opportunity to buy the business from her. And the plan was always to get for me to kind of buy ownership over time, over kind of a 15-year period. And in the end, it wasn't meant to be. But so I've had an interesting journey from wannabe geography teacher to agency owner now. But I've always loved Bamboo and what we've been about and the feeling of the company and what we do. And it's just this is how kind of the journey goes and shows you never know where you might end up and how things might happen. Yeah.
All right. First of all, so sorry to hear that,
Thank you. Yeah, it
about your
was
partner.
yeah, thank you.
But yeah, we all never actually planned to get in digital marketing, did we? It all happened to us, right?
It's true. Digital, it's funny you actually mentioned digital particularly because our digital service was built out the last few years by someone in our team called Kat Gibbons, our strategic director. And then after that, imparting their knowledge on the rest of our team because it became apparent that we're fantastic writers, comms people and PR people, but we had overlooked the fact that digital really influences that. And likewise, the other way around. Nowadays, you have to write as much for the reader as much as for the search engine. And if you told me, say, 15 years ago, hey, one day you'll be looking after an agency that does more than just contact the media and journalists for clients in B2B tech, I'd have been like, that's really interesting you say that. I can't see it because I love what I do. But when you bring people into your team and they come with skills and experience and they're engaged and they're great kind of people, you're empowered as an owner to take what they're saying and run with it. And luckily, fortunately, our clients were requesting that kind of expertise at the same time. And Yeah, definitely not what I thought we'd be doing after this many years, but I think it mirrors what our clients are searching for themselves.
Absolutely. And in talking about running an agency, Marco, it has its own challenges and rewards as well, right? And then especially when you're starting out those early days, right? When you spoke about that first interview, getting into the small agency of three folks, right? It must have been really challenging to, first of all, get those first of those clients, early clients, working from them, ensuring that delivery and everything is in place, right? Talk us through those days and then tell to them, and what are the challenges? How do you overcome them and you remain passionate about it?
Yeah, 15 years in at one company, you got to be passionate to still be there. And I think
Yeah.
for, for all the for all the sadness, like obviously I've had like kind of two chapters. One was the support, number two, to someone who was running a company, and then obviously my era of taking on the agency and learning how to run a business and not so much being a marketer. But in the early days, I remember I didn't learn PR. So at university or communications, I say I learned how to look at literature. So I remember in a lot of the early years having to know, what is this discipline? Like, how does this work? I remember some quite awkward moments where obviously when you're young, you don't want to ask questions because you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. But being in early meetings and being like, I don't know what's a feature? Like, what's an editorial calendar? And obviously, the industry has changed a lot over the years. Like, it's far more integrated online. And I remember a few years into my time saying to my director, who became like we're very close friends by the end of it, saying to her, "Hey, look, I think this social media thing is a thing we should be doing for our clients." And she wasn't very into social media at the time, but she said, "Hey, look, if you want to try and build out what we do and there's an interest, then go for it." So I think like staying relevant in such a fast moving industry is something I learned with time how to do. And I suppose that then feeds into like my phase and now my current kind of role, which is like, how do I make sure that we stay relevant for our clients? How do I keep the passion in our team there? Like, how do I keep people motivated? How do we balance the needs of the team with the needs of the client and the needs of the client customers and the marketing that we produce for them? So it's difficult. It's a challenge. It's a fun challenge. It comes with its pros and its cons, but I could probably write a book nowadays on all the things I've earned the last 3 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. And talking about culture in terms of teams you work culture and people management, how do you foresee building that strong team culture and work environment there at your agency?
Yeah. This is a massive topic for me and a one that I think stems from obviously a very sad event where I had loved the culture that I had seen for the years I was just a director or a junior or an account manager, all these roles I've had over the years. And I wanted to make sure like I maintain that out of kind of love and respect for the person I worked with. But at the same time, think, okay, like how can we do this even better? Like how can we take a tragic event and use it as fuel for me and our people who were there at the time and make this a positive thing? And I was very fortunate, somewhat perhaps in a cruel way, that as I took ownership and took over, we hit a really great growth spurt. We started to add more clients. We added more people into our team, and we got larger to the point where now we're seven people, and the largest we've been. And how do you make sure that culture that was powerful at the start is maintained? And for me, if you just treat your people, like these are humans, they've got aspirations, they've got goals, they're scared of things, they've got stuff going on in their lives. Like we're fortunate that we're small, so it's easier to be flexible. And we're a work from home company now. So we
Mhm.
used to have a London office that we got rid of in COVID and doubled down on this. So we have that challenge as well. Like, how do we
Yeah.
stay connected as people and with our clients? But it comes back to time and time again that people obviously want to be paid well. They want to make sure that they're being progressed and they're advancing in their careers. But
Yeah.
actually, it's just being treated like an adult. If someone comes into work and says, I don't feel well, like being like, okay, go take time and get better. Put your tools away. Don't come to work. Like focus on feeling better. or people saying, hey, like I'm supporting a grandparent at a moment. They're not great. I need a bit more flexibility. And it's all these little mini events that kind of build culture and build mutual respect. And then hopefully, if the people are the right people and they're obviously good people in themselves, they respond with their kind of dedication and their growth. And another aspect to culture for me is like making sure that it's progressive and healthy. Our industry, there's plenty agencies out there that kind of have the, I suppose, the work hard, play hard mentality. But for us, our guiding light is about like working less and living more. And that's what we kind of use for all our decisions. Does this give people back? Is this a thing that can give people back time without obviously compromising on client standards? But I use it all the time to be like, how do we make people enjoy their life? Because at the end of the day, work is the thing you talk around the dinner table to. It's the thing you
Yeah.
complain or you say great things about to your partner or to your kids. I feel very responsible for ensuring that the culture we've built and maintained means that our people are treated respectfully by our clients and internally, and like helping people achieve what they want to achieve. Like asking people, what do you want in life? And it's surprising what people say. It's not what you always think. Yeah. I often ask
Yeah.
our team, like, why would they leave as well? And sometimes even outright say, are you thinking of leaving? Because I'd rather know and understand if it's something culturally we can improve, or if someone says, hey, one day I just want to change. And then you can work in a way together that means that this is what people want. Yeah, it's very, I could talk all day about this.
Absolutely. It is quite fascinating. It is quite lovely to understand that how you want to build the culture around how careful you are about each of the employees and what is happening in their personal lives when they walk through the door. So yeah, and so that makes a lot of sense in terms of and especially for listeners today who are trying to start on their entrepreneurial journey in terms of how they want to build a company, right? Because the company at the end of the day is a blend of not only your product and service, but more importantly, the kind of people you have in the setup, right?
Totally. If you look after this, everyone says this, but if you do look after your people, will look after your company and your clients. And
Yeah.
it took me a while to understand that I don't have to do everything, and to be kind to myself as well, to be like, I'm doing my best. I look for motivation as much from my team to motivate me as it is my job to keep them motivated. And we're a close-knit team that we've been together quite a while and people really know each other well.
Mhm.
And there's a common ground that kind of exists between that. But at the same time, it's always about making sure we don't get complacent and we don't
Yeah.
forget actually, like we don't sleepwalk into kind of a situation that is damaging to someone. I would always advise any person who wants to set up an agency to know that it's hard work. It's a real up and down kind of world. But at the same time, like you've got to stay true to your values because
Right.
ultimately that's what leads it. So if we don't have clients or people that match that, that's okay. That's not a problem. But we're going to eventually clash. And that's the hardest part. And if you think about that from the moment you start, it's a much easier path than if you just chase the work. Like you
Right.
got to be sure on what you want. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then that's as the managing director, as someone who's leading the show at your own agency, how do you decide when to delegate? Because that is very important, right? You touched upon, you realize at some point that you cannot do everything and anything that is there. So how and when you delegate?
Yeah, I was a bit different to my predecessor because she loved the business side. So she wanted to do
Mhm.
everything, like everything from accounting and payroll to like kind of the HR side. I made sure when I took over, what am I really good at? And what do I want to be good at? And what do I enjoy? Because those are the things that I gravitate to. And I love my craft. I love what we do for our clients. And the hardest part was being okay with being like to all of them and saying, hey, I'm still going to oversee, I'm still going to steer, but I've got senior people who are very good at what they do. And I've got kind of account managers and other people who are very good at what they do. Like my time has come to oversee this rather than be the person who writes the blog or writes the PR kind
Yeah.
of news announcement. So that was always difficult, but necessary, and giving people space to shine and delegating work and then having them delegate to each other kind of comes with just practice and repetition and explaining like why and how. The interesting side was, okay, what in the business am I not good at? Or what do I enjoy but someone else could be better at? And I've got two people behind the scenes who handle the majority of the day to day now who are much better at me at that. And that's freed me up to focus on growing our brand and building our network and keeping people happy and healthy. And ultimately focused on where we're going as a company. And that's been the biggest transformation, having support on the business side and justifying that as an investment. But it's worked wonders for us. And someone, can't remember who it was, gave me very good advice early on. And he said, find a thing that you're doing, and your job is to make yourself redundant. They go find a partner or a person or a service provider who can do it better. Go slowly, keep adding on until eventually you're there and you're almost like, hey, everybody, what do I have to do? What can I still do? And I think we've reached the point now where I'm in my best version of what that is. For delegation advice, always explain the why, because people don't know what, if they don't know why they're doing it, they won't necessarily do it well, or they won't want to do it. And explain the what very clearly. So what are we doing? By when? What's the expectation? And what do you need from me? And what questions do I need to ask? And if you do that again and again, it becomes habit, because otherwise people don't know what to do or when they should be doing it. It's just yeah. Communication is a huge part of delegation.
Great, Marco. Thank you so much for this conversation. I'm sure our listeners would have taken quite a few notes in terms of what you shared today. So yeah, for our listeners, once again, if they want to reach out to you, how do they do that, Marco?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. It's my only platform nowadays. My surname's Fiori. I'd suggest you copy it from the show notes rather than me spelling it out. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a big advocate of the platform as a way to connect and to help. And I'm always there to talk about how it is to run an agency, obviously marketing generally, but also a big passion of mine is like how people move through grief and the many ways that people grieve. I always tell people, if you've got a question, ask. Go seek help. And if I don't know, I'll find someone who can maybe help you.
Lovely. Great. Thanks once again, Marco. Cheers, man.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.